Hello, boys and girls. Greg from the Scary Spirits Podcast here to make you another cocktail. This week's cocktail is something I am calling the Green Dream. And it is a featured cocktail in today's episode. I'm going to start with a glass with ice. To that, we're going to add coconut rum, 2 ounces. Next, pina colada mix. Once again, 2 ounces. Melon liqueur. Again, 2 ounces. Look at that, boys and girls. Kind of layers. Finally, we're going to add some green edible glitter, just for fun. Then we're going to stir. And there you have it. The Green Dream. Yeah, it's pretty good. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. See ya.
On the podcast, before Greg and I talk scene-by-scene specifics, I read a plot summary of the movie. Some of these summaries are spot on, some are way off, and some make the movie sound way better than it actually is. And that's the case for this week's movie on the Scary Spirits podcast, John Carpenter's Prince of Darkness. I won't go into detail, but when you're promised the essence of Satan and Satan personified, your expectations tend to be a little too high. I'll just say that John Carpenter can, and has, done way better. Cheers!
Welcome to the Scary Spirits Podcast. Please be advised that the presenters may use adult language and/or discuss adult situations. This podcast is not intended for younger listeners or those that may be easily offended. So, if you're ready, let's go.
Hi, I'm Greg.
Hey, I'm Karen.
And welcome to the Scary Spirits Podcast that combines the two very different yet highly compatible worlds of scary films and alcoholic spirits.
What could possibly go wrong?
Indeed. How are you, Karen?
I am over the moon, Greg. How are you?
I'm okay.
Well, how can you just be okay?
I'm just okay.
It's October. It's my favorite time of year.
It's true, but it's very stressful, Karen. Very stressful.
See, it's just a lot of work for you. So for me, it's just like, yay, October.
I keep threatening to retire every year.
Yeah, I know.
Welcome to October, boys and girls. Karen, was this film my choice or yours?
Greg, this was your choice.
Oh, it was my choice.
What film did you choose?
The film I have chosen is The Prince of Darkness from 1987.
And why, oh, why did you choose this film?
Tomorrow is Donald Pleasence's birthday, Karen.
Oh, okay.
So if you're listening to this when this episode goes live on October 4th, Donald Pleasence's birthday is October 5th. I'm sure you're going to ask me how old he is next.
I was. And while you do that, I cut you off. You were going to say that this was a film brought to us by John Carpenter.
John Carpenter, yes.
Correct?
Yes.
But I just had to know why you picked it, and I cut you off.
So he passed away in 1995. So tomorrow would be his 104th birthday, Karen. So happy birthday, Donald Pleasence. He was in another John Carpenter film as well, Karen, in Halloween.
Ah, okay.
Probably the other John Carpenter Halloween film too, the sequel, maybe. Don't you think?
I don't know. Is Halloween was John Carpenter, or is John Carpenter's Halloween a different one? Just the first one?
Yeah.
Okay.
He did Halloween and I believe Halloween 2. And I think he produced Halloween 3. Yeah, Halloween 1978. Donald Pleasence was in Halloween 2 in 1981 as well.
Okay. So they're buds.
John Carpenter didn't direct Halloween 2, but he produced and wrote it. And then he was in Halloween 4 too, which had nothing to do with John Carpenter. And he was in Halloween 5 too. Well, of course they skipped 3 because that's a different story altogether. But yeah, Donald Pleasence, he's pretty much in almost all the Halloween films. And tomorrow was his birthday, as I said. And that's why I chose this film, Karen.
Okay. Do you have a cocktail to go along with this film?
I do, Karen.
Excellent. What is it?
This one is kind of one of my own creation. Kind of, sort of.
You edited it.
I edited a drink I found. It's called the Green Dream, Karen.
And what's in this lovely drink?
We're going to need 2 ounces of coconut rum, 2 ounces of pina colada mix, and 2 ounces of melon liqueur. Midori, if you have it. And we're going to need some edible green glitter and some whipped cream, if you like that kind of thing.
Yeah, you're extra fancy.
We're going to take a glass filled with ice, Karen. Add 2 ounces of, basically add all the fluids. 2 ounces of coconut rum, 2 ounces of pina colada mix, and 2 ounces of melon liqueur.
So there's no shaking involved?
No shaking. And it's kind of, it separates. You know, they don't mix, but then you stir it up, Karen. And the green glitter as well. And then if you want to be fancy like me, you can spray some whipped cream on top. Should we give our friends and listeners time to make their own cocktail, Karen?
Absolutely.
Hold on. And we're back.
Yes, we are.
Might you have a brief synopsis of this film for us, Karen?
I do.
Go on. Tell me a story.
Poking around in a church cellar, a priest finds an otherworldly vial filled with slime. Frightened, he brings his discovery to a circle of top scholars and scientists, who eventually learn that the strange liquid is the essence of Satan. The slime then begins to seep out, turning some of the academics into zombified killers. As the possessed battle the survivors, student Kelly is infected by a large quantity of liquid and becomes Satan personified.
Thank you, Karen, for that brief synopsis. Now, when I hear that, that sounds like a film I want to see, Karen. I'm just saying.
Yes, it does.
Satan personified?
That's what it says. It's pretty inaccurate synopsis. But we get those sometimes. That's why you listen.
Karen, was there anything you really enjoyed in this film or pleasantly surprised by?
I thought the music was good. I liked it. That played throughout the movie.
Well, I was going to ask you.
I did notice that. There were some nice shots that I thought were not just good filmmaking, but beautiful in a grotesque kind of way. I'm stretching here. That might be it. Remind me what you liked, and let me see if I can come up with anything else.
What did I like? It was an interesting story. Not the story was interesting. It had lots of potential, Karen.
It did have potential.
Like you said, you read that synopsis. That sounds like a good story. That sounds like a good movie. Acting was fair. I mean, Donald Pleasence is good.
Yes.
The others, not so much. The wardrobe, Karen, the clothes, the 1987 clothes.
That's
were you
true.
taken back?
You can definitely tell the time period.
The clothes and
100%.
the hair.
Yes.
Yeah, I like the clothes. I got a little sentimental reminiscing about I had clothes just like that when I used to go shop at Chess King. Sets were, there's not really a lot of sets. It takes place basically in one building.
True.
Some rooms.
Where is this?
There are some outdoor shots, but
where is this in his filmography? Where does this come out? Is this early or late in his career?
Late, middle. Halloween came out in 1978.
Okay.
And this is actually part 2 of what he calls his Apocalypse trilogy.
Oh, okay.
So The Thing is the first film in the Apocalypse trilogy, what he calls the Apocalypse trilogy, which came out in 1982. This came out in 1987. And then the final film in the trilogy, can you guess, Karen, what it could be?
Is it The Fog? I don't know.
No. In the Mouth of Madness, Karen.
Oh, I forgot about that one.
Yeah, from 1994.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, this must have come out probably in between The Thing and In the Mouth of Madness. All right, so The Thing, yeah, he'd made lots of movies in between. Then he did Christine and Starman, Big Trouble in Little China. Then he did this. Then he did They Live, which I really like too. And then Memoirs of an Invisible Man, and then In the Mouth of Madness. So this is pretty much smack dab right in the middle of his film career, if you list them. Maybe not by year, but in order of when they were released.
Okay.
That's all I can think of, Karen, that I enjoyed.
Yeah, I just wondered. That's why I wondered if maybe it was late in his career, because it's kind of phoned in, kind of, or something. I don't know what the right description is.
I'd like to say the effects were good, but
They weren't terrible.
I have to put myself in 1987 though, right?
And John Carpenter, at least in the films,
I knew how they did everything, Karen. All the effects, I knew exactly how they did it.
Yes.
There's no CGI or anything groundbreaking effects wise, right?
And the films that we've watched, I know we've said more than once, he seems to do a lot with a little, which is kind of his, at least in the films I've seen, something that I think he's known for. And that is consistent with this film. There's not a lot of effects going on.
Just like Halloween and just like The Fog.
And the thing had a little more, but
where I was going was this takes place basically in one night, pretty much, or 48 hours, I think is the total time. But I don't think The Fog as much as it's a short thing too, right? It takes place in a couple days.
And that's another, not that I don't like this, but the films I've seen of his that we've watched together, it always seems to be a group of people shut in a small space, fighting something off, fighting something evil, which is kind of what you just said. It takes place in a very short amount of time, and there's not a lot of sets.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not exactly a trope, but I'm kind of watching it going, well, it could be The Fog out there, but it's not. Or it could be The Thing out there, but it's not. It's just another movie that he's made that's kind of the same as the others. And to be honest, this one's not quite as good.
All right. So moving on to what you didn't like.
There's too many people in it. The cast is too big. I had no idea what the names of half these people were.
I didn't either. And I kept thinking that's a Carpenter thing too. He just drops people in without any backstory. We don't learn anything about him. He just drops them in this situation and then go. Right?
Right. And they each had a reasonable part. Everybody played a part that they weren't unnecessary, so to speak, but I couldn't keep track of who was who and why they were there. And so it was frustrating a little bit. So I'm just like, well, this guy, blah, blah, blah. I don't know who that is. Like, I don't know his name, but this happened to him or he did this. So there was a fair amount of that, but they all had significant roles somehow. Like they all were there for a reason.
Were they,
wasn't, well, as an actor, I would say they had a role that was,
I mean, they did. Everyone was there for a reason and had
lines and had a purpose,
but their purpose may not have been effective or needed.
Yes, they weren't 100% necessary, but he did give them all lines. It wasn't just ensign whoever that goes down in what colored shirt and just dies.
The red shirted ensign. Yeah.
Yes. So it wasn't like that. So, but there were just too many people. I couldn't keep track of it.
I had, like I always do on my little notepad here, I write down I go through the cast and I write down all the names of the characters so I can reference it as I'm watching it. When I realized that Catherine was the redhead, I wrote by her name, redhead. I would remember. And when I saw Brian, I'm like, that guy looks familiar, except he has a porn stash.
Yeah. So who was he?
He was in Simon and Simon.
Oh, okay. He looked older than some of the kids.
The rest of them. Oh,
yeah.
And of course, I knew who the priest was. And of course, I knew the professor was the professor. I have here Kelly, bruised girl. That's how I remembered who she was. And then I realized Susan was a radiologist because they said it. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Over and over and over.
Yeah.
With the glasses.
And of course, I know who the street schizo was, Karen.
Yeah. Because I said that guy looks like Alice Cooper.
Yes. And he's credited, his character name is Street Schizo.
Doesn't have any lines, but
he's got some action though.
He does. I thought, I don't want to use the word boring. It's a slow.
Yeah, it's a slow burn.
It's much slower than it needs to be. I mean, you do say that John Carpenter just drops people in there, but we had this whole little romance that I would call stalking, but whatever.
Yes. I think I even said in my notes that Brian is stalking the redhead from his class.
Yes. So that whole first part seemed like it didn't need to be there. Just assemble your team, go in and get it done.
Well, he's trying to, I guess he's trying to do a little bit of background so you know that, oh, these are college students and they're studying.
And I get it. It does come around at the end, you know, and I don't really have a problem with it. It just was so slow until the last half an hour. Yeah. There's a lot of technical talk that, you know, is just thrown in there willy-nilly. And
was there Dr. Karen about microbiology? And
my favorite part, one of my favorite parts was she's sitting in front of the computer, which are what, Commodore 64s maybe or something. Yeah. I don't know.
She had dual floppy disk drives, Karen. So she had a whole 3 megs of data she could access.
But the equations are just coming up on the computer over and over and over and over. And she's watching the equations come up.
Well, they're not just equations, are they, Karen? They're special equations, aren't they?
Yeah, they're not quadratic. What did she say they were? I can't remember.
I don't know. That's what I'm looking.
But the computer's doing all the work and she's just staring at the screen. The other woman comes up to her and just says, how can you keep working like this? And I'm thinking, she's staring at a screen. She's not even punching buttons. She's just watching it go. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of funny to me. How can you keep working like this? She's not working. She's just watching it. They're the calculus equations. What are they called? Quadratic?
Yeah, that must be. That sounds right. Differential equations.
Oh, differential. Yeah, that's calculus.
Differential equations. I'm sure you know all about those, Dr. Karen.
No, I don't.
I don't either.
I don't know. I just thought it just dragged for me to the point of, is something going to happen? Or, you know, because we're getting introduced to all these people and I can't keep track of who's who. So it was kind of, like I said, not exactly boring, but I was a little bored. waiting for something to come around and get established.
I did not enjoy the music throughout.
You didn't?
No.
I kind of liked it. I thought it added some stuff. It was overpowering a little bit, but
it became a distraction to me.
Oh, I would listen to it though if I was like mopping the floor or driving or it was entertaining to me. It was nice and
of course it's John Carpenter. He usually does his own music, so that's his own shit. But I could have done without Walter.
Oh, okay. I remember which one he was. Yeah. He was kind of comic relief.
Yes, his purpose, as you say, was comic relief, I'm sure. Yes. But he wasn't funny.
No, he wasn't.
And he was a terrible actor.
Well, his lines weren't good, though.
But even when he was acting, he wasn't very good. You're trapped in a room, you want to get out. Act.
True.
He was terrible. Makeup wasn't great.
No, you could tell Alice was wearing makeup. It was distracting to me.
Alice?
Yeah. I didn't like his makeup.
Alice Cooper?
Yeah, he didn't look good.
He always looks like that, Karen. He's Alice Cooper.
But it was overdone.
And when you tell me in the synopsis that it's Satan personified, I'm expecting some big fucking makeup for that person. But no, it's basically a bloodier Freddy Krueger.
Well, but she's not even. No, she's
even the freaking.
She's not even the vessel, because she's, as we'll get into later, she's trying to bring Satan in. She's not Satan.
She's the chosen one, though.
Yeah.
And her scar on her bruise and her scar, well, I guess it's a scar of the symbol, wasn't very good either on her arm.
No, and I don't know if she was pregnant or whatever, but it was just a basketball under her shirt, literally. It was, I said, that's a basketball. It's not even an attempt to make it look anything other than a basketball under her shirt.
No.
It was bad.
I didn't like Susan much either, actually.
She never got to blink. Yeah, it's just, they were very one-dimensional, I would say. Comic relief was comic relief. Infected.
I kind of like Lisa. I mean, she was okay.
Was that the translator?
Yeah. Theology. Getting her.
Yeah, but every time she's translating and typing into the computer, and every time she types something, she looks at it surprised. Like, I'm like, is she just typing
the computer's doing the work, Karen, I guess.
No, she was typing it in. So I don't know if she was only typing, like, there are times where if you're just looking at something and translating, if she was just doing letters, then she wouldn't know what it was saying, because she would just be typing in.
Kind of like Morse code.
Yeah. Once you got in a groove, you probably wouldn't even pay attention to what the letters were. We used to do that when we would read DNA sequence. It was all A's, C's, G's, and T's, and you would just be going A, G, T, A. But you wouldn't notice any patterns or anything until you went back and looked at it. So at first I was kind of like, how does she not know what she's typing? Because she would look at it and like recoil, like, oh, whoa, what did I just type? And I'm thinking, well, aren't you translating? Like reading one language and typing, you would know what you were typing. But I think she was doing it letter by letter or something. So I don't know. She was okay. They were all okay, but they were one-dimensional. It's not his best. I'll say that.
It is not.
And I'm glad I've seen other ones that he did, because I think if I saw this one, I'd be reluctant to see other ones. There's nothing that makes you think this was really good. There's nothing in it. I don't know if any of the effects were new when this came out.
No, can't be.
You know, where you would have said, wow, remember where blah, 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 or this or that. No, it just seemed, well, I've done this before. We can throw this together. We'll make some money. That's what it kind of felt like. Having seen the films I've seen by him, like I said, The Fog is the same, but better. The Thing is kind of the same,
but better. Thing is really good. The Fog, I love The Fog.
They're both better.
And I love The Thing, too.
Both people who
I love They Live, too.
Didn't really know each other, stuck in a situation where they have to fight something off. But I guess I'll agree with you. The premise was interesting. And I thought I would like it more with all the scientists in it.
It only had a $3 million budget. It's pretty low budget, even for 1987, I think. $3 million?
How come he doesn't have a higher budget than that?
I don't know. It made 14, so I'd say that's a success.
Off his name, I would say.
Probably.
I mean, it's not horrible. It's not Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. It's just not very good.
Oh, it's definitely not Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, Karen.
But it's not very good. And it's certainly not good relative to his other films that we've seen.
Yeah, it was his first film in his, he reached a multi-year deal with some company called Alive Pictures. And this was the first film. And basically he was given $3 million per picture in complete control. So I don't know, man, that doesn't seem like a lot of money, even in 1987.
No, and especially with how big the cast was, all those homeless people that are not, they're actors, but there were a lot of homeless people in it. That's a lot of money that he's got to pay out. I mean, nobody was well known, but still, the cast was big.
Mm-hmm.
But there weren't a lot of sets, like you said, and I'm not even sure why it's called The Prince of Darkness.
I don't know either.
I missed that. And
all right, what kind of cocktail rating you want to give this film, Karen?
I'd give it a 4, unless you can convince me otherwise.
I would say a 3.5, but there are no 3.5, so it's got to be a 4. But I was watching, I was thinking, because you didn't know any, because it was so hard to like realize who everybody was. I was thinking, I wonder if this would be better on the second watch. You know what I mean? I might get more of it, but
maybe.
I don't know.
I think, again, because we're watching it and because we're taking notes, we have to know who everyone is, and that starts to get frustrating. But maybe if you're just sitting in the theater watching it and not really
eating your butter popcorn,
worried about who's who, it might be easier to watch.
Yeah. All right. Would you like to hear a review from the time?
Hey, let's hit Critics Corner and see if they agree or disagree.
I had several, but I only picked one due to, time constraints and whatnot. The one I've picked is from Roger Ebert, Karen.
He's one of your favorites.
He is. Because I tend to agree with him, I think.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm finding out. So this is from October 23rd, 1987. So this film was released in October too, I guess.
That would make sense.
Yeah, it was released October 23rd, 1987. And I will paraphrase. Roger says, the setup for Prince of Darkness is pretty good. The priest appeals to the scientist to help save the planet. The graduate students are introduced and a small romance blossoms between two of them. The computers are wheeled in. I was looking for a cross between The Exorcist and The Entity, but then the movie suddenly turned simplistic and the evil sleeper turned into a dud. Because that's what they call the thing, is the sleeper.
Oh, okay.
He says, let's face it, when a movie promises the Prince of Darkness, we expect more than a green thing in a tube that sprays fluids into people's mouths, turning them into zombies who stand around for most of the movie looking like they can't remember which bus to take. When we're threatened with Armageddon, we expect more than people hitting each other over the head with 2x4s. The movie tries to compensate for a thin plot with some very thick, even oppressive music. The music is effective at first, but then it grows obnoxious, loud, and annoying. The kind of music that tells us the sights we are witnessing are not as banal as they seem. Prince of Darkness contains the ingredients for a much better movie. I liked, for example, the notion that the characters were receiving radio transmissions from the future in their dreams. I liked the idea of mirrors as doorways to the next dimension, and I enjoyed the computer gimmicks that were brought in to measure the monster, except that they never paid off. Instead, the movie degenerated into a bunch of people chasing each other up and down a hallway while the soundtrack went berserk. Call me an optimist, but I believe absolute evil should somehow be worse than that. And I agree with him.
Yeah, I do too. I'm saying I didn't, I guess what I should, with the music, I just liked the music, not necessarily in the movie.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just liked it. But I thought at
Yeah,
some
during the
point,
opening credits, as soon as it started, I'm like, well, that's a John Carpenter score.
yes.
It was fine. It was fine during the credits, but I don't need that. So I don't need that dun 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 dun, like, or whatever it was throughout the whole freaking movie.
Right. Every time someone opened a door or went, like he said, down a hallway. I get that. I'm just saying I liked it. And it did add some suspense sometimes, but it was through the entire movie.
It was.
In case,
I kept thinking, oh, that must be in the credits. Nope. Here comes more. Because usually, like, when the music kind of stops, you know that the credits are over and they're acting. But then the music started up again. Then there's more credits. It was
an interesting opening. He did do that. So he'd show us a little of the film, then do some credits, then show a little more of the film, then do some credits, then show a little more of the film and do some credits. Was it distracting? I thought so. But at the same time, it was different. It was trying something new. So, I'll give him that because most people don't do that. And there's probably a reason, but he was cutting it up nicely of showing different scenes in there. So again, I didn't really like it, but I thought it was different. And that goes on for quite a while.
It does. All right. 4 cocktails. Are you ready to get into it and dissect it scene by scene, Karen? I have like 6 pages.
It's not that long of a movie.
I know, but they're all like one-liners.
There's a lot of people in it.
My cocktail's almost evaporated already, Karen.
That's like eating the whole thing of popcorn before the movie starts.
That is. All right. Are you ready to get into it?
Yes. You have or have not seen it before? You have not.
I have not.
And I'm assuming Amazon Prime is responsible for your viewing also?
It is. Film opens and we see it's rated R, Karen. Violence, smoking, foul language, and sexual content. Not near enough, I would say. And I don't even know what. Well, I guess there's a hair of sexual content in it. We see a couple in bed. So I guess that's sexual content, Karen, in 1987. I'm not even sure why it's rated R. But anyway.
I mean, I can see it.
And we have credits. And I wrote, there's a priest dying, ? And he's got a box. What's in the box?
It's a small treasure chest looking thing.
And then I said, we see a dude with a porn stash. And I was thinking,
looks like a college campus.
I recognize him.
Looks like the 80s. A guy staring at a girl, then he walks away. And I said maybe he's a professor because he has a briefcase.
And we see a nun finding who apparently he's not a priest, he's a cardinal, Karen. I couldn't tell from his bedclothes.
Yeah, he's not in red.
But he gone.
So you want to know the hierarchy of the church? He was a cardinal.
Is the Pope the top, or is
the Pope is this is the Catholic Church?
Or is God, or
yes, but the Pope.
Where's Mary fit in the hierarchy?
Oh, women don't get to be in the hierarchy of the Catholic Church.
But why you say Hail Marys then? She must have some importance.
Because women get shit done. So if you need something done, you say Hail Marys.
I agree.
So
I'm hoping we have a woman president next, Karen, actually.
We have a Pope at the top, and then cardinals beneath the Pope, then archbishops beneath the cardinals, bishops beneath the archbishops, priests, and then deacons. Deacons can be lay people. They aren't.
Yeah, I know. I knew a deacon or two.
Okay. Fascinating, I know.
Yep.
But the nun is wearing the full habit and the whole shebang, the black.
Did you say where the nuns are in the hierarchy?
I think I made that clear. Didn't I?
I know. Did you?
Pretty sure.
All right.
Same place as Mary.
Oh, okay. So then we see a priest, or maybe I should call him the priest, because that's his freaking character's name, the priest, Donald Pleasence, reading the diary of the cardinal and talking about the brotherhood of sleep we see as he's reading. And we see the words, the sleeper awakens, because they be sure to concentrate on those words to be sure we see them, right? And there's this whole thing about the sun and moon, too. They always see the sun and the moon together. Is that like a yin and yang kind of thing? Dark and light?
Know. You didn't read what it says in the journal, I can tell you. How the brotherhood of sleep, now we can no longer keep silent as to the dreadful secret that has been a part of him since I took the vow of silence. He must tell his holiness. It's saying, I must tell his holiness, the archbishop, if only to make the moment when the secret can be revealed. So it's all about this journal, which I don't know where that came from, because it certainly wouldn't fit in the small treasure chest. So I guess he just had it with him.
He was probably sitting on his desk where the priest is reading it. Oh.
And it says, this sleeper awakens. I would
think he wanted it found, especially if he knew he was going to die. So someone would know what the hell's going on.
I have witnessed his stirrings about the cold, hellish blast.
Then we come to Professor Howard. I call him that the whole time. Or the professor.
Is that his first name?
Yeah, it's his first name.
Oh, crap. Because I was using his last name the whole time. Okay.
Birack,
I think they called him.
Whatever.
Which is really great when you're doing talk to text, because it comes out all kinds of things. But he looks professor-ish. He's got some briefcase. And then there's something about ants. When he puts down his briefcases, there's a bunch of ants there. And then he does look up at the sky, and he sees the sky and the sliver moon, but the moon is kind of on its side. It's above the sun. It's in there a lot, but no one mentions what it could mean. At least I didn't get it.
Then he's giving a class and he's talking about subatomic levels or some shit, Dr. Karen.
You skipped where they find the skeleton key?
No, he's still in his class. We see him outside the building, and he puts his briefcase down, and we see the army ants or whatever. And then he looks up at the sky, and then we cut to him in the class talking.
Okay, I have that
about quantum physics, apparently.
He shows the priest shows the small treasure chest has a skeleton key, but okay.
Yes, and then next, the priest uses a key that I guess he found in the box to open a door in what appears to be an abandoned building, I wrote.
Did you see what looked like the bald Will Ferrell in the back of the classroom?
No, I did not, Karen. I don't even know what that is.
A bald Will Ferrell? You don't know who Will Ferrell is?
Oh, Will Ferrell. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about now. That is Mullins, right? Isn't that Mullins? Is that Mullins?
It might be. I couldn't tell. No, I think it was someone different. But he's talking about subatomic levels, that everything collapses into subatomic levels, because your reality is reality, but it's not really reality because it's all molecules, which always used to kind of freak me out when I was learning about electrons and protons and how everything fits together. And the table that you're sitting at is really atoms, and the pencil and you, and it starts to wig out your brain a little bit, I think. But that's kind of what they're talking about. But then they go back to the priest, and he opens the door.
The next thing I have is Brian is stalking the redheaded girl from his class.
Before we get there, the church that they go into is very dilapidated, hasn't been open for a long time. So it's not like they're walking into a modern church. It's an old, abandoned looking church in a not very nice area of town. And then we have the stop.
Well, I called it a monastery because that's what I think they called it on Wikipedia. So that's what I kept calling it. And then we see the priest writing a letter to Professor Howard. Well, he's typing a letter, Karen, on an old-fashioned typewriter. He says he has found the most unusual phenomenon, and he may be interested in. We cut back to the professor teaching his class. And right here I wrote, I think the credits are over 9 minutes so far.
I just kept writing more credits. So it's just these vignettes of story in between the credits.
All right. And we see the nun talking to the professor. So I guess the professor has come, or the nun has gone to see the professor, right?
Well, a limo pulls up.
Yeah.
Which
with the nun, she's very important.
I've never seen nuns travel in limos like that, but she's on very important business for the archbishop. So maybe it's probably his car. I don't know. And she walks through the school. At first, I thought it maybe was a religious school, like it was somehow connected to the priests and all that. But the way they watched the nun go through the hallway all in shock, I'm like, okay, not a religious school. they're just shocked to see her. They don't know why she's there.
But apparently the professor agrees, because the next thing we see is him meeting the priest at the church or monastery or whatever the hell it is. And then right here I wrote, nope, more credits, 11 minutes. And we see who we learn is Brian. I don't think we know it's Brian yet, but I figured it out by now. Watching a news report about a supernova, and there's army ants in his TV, Karen.
But do you know what a supernova is?
It's like when a star explodes, something like that.
It's a powerful and luminous explosion.
It's what's going to happen to the sun someday.
Of a star. A supernova occurs during the last evolutionary stages of a massive star, or when a white dwarf is triggered into runaway nuclear fusion. So then I had to say, well, what's a white dwarf? Because I don't know.
Yeah, the sun's a red star, right?
I think it's orange, they said. Okay. Now it's orange.
Oh, so it's progressing.
I think.
Progressing toward white.
Yes, I'm not 100% sure, but I thought it said. But you might be right. It could have been red. So after they've exhausted all of their nuclear fuel, near the end of its nuclear burning stage, this type of star expels most of its outer material, creating a planetary nebula. Only the hot core of the star remains. It was a little depressing, like, holy crap, the sun will eventually become a white dwarf.
Yep. We'll be gone by then, Karen.
Well, we'll be gone way before then.
So then we see the priest and the professor at the abandoned monastery or whatever it is, and the priest opens the door and takes the professor into the basement.
That's never good.
Priest tells the professor about the Brotherhood of Sleep. They were a private sect. Apparently powerful, though.
The Vatican didn't even know about them.
And then we see a vessel containing a green fluid, much like my cocktail, which is now evaporated, Karen.
Yeah, it almost looks like it's up on an altar. There's lots of candles around.
I know. Who's keeping all them damn candles lit, Karen?
I don't know, but there's a lot of them in there. Must be 100 at least.
No, a bunch.
And it's not like we don't have electricity. It's the 80s.
I know.
I don't know why they were there.
Didn't they say that the basement was constructed in like the 15th century or some stupid?
Yes, but you could have put up, but you still don't need 100 candles.
So then they look in an old book, apparently written in different ancient languages, and they've been writing and rewriting it and erasing, and I don't know.
So it's written in Latin, and some of it's Coptic, and some of it's Greek. So Coptic, I didn't know what that was.
I don't know what it is, Karen.
Well, it's the language of the Copts, which represents the final stage of ancient Egyptian. It now survives only as a liturgical language of the Coptic Church. So the Copts, C-O-P-T-S, are Christian ethno-religious group indigenous to North Africa who have primarily inhabited the area of modern Egypt and Sudan since antiquity. Most ethnic Copts are Coptic Oriental Orthodox Christians. They are the largest Christian denomination in Egypt and the Middle East, as well as in Sudan and Libya. I'd never heard that before, so that was...
I haven't either.
But I guess it's another ancient language.
Christian language.
Well, I guess so, yes, in that. But Latin's not a Christian language, and neither is Greek. So
then, Karen, we see a couple students, and they're talking about the cat in the box. Remember talking about the cat
Schrodinger's cat.
I know.
Yes,
I told you about that.
I was like, Greg's going to know exactly what that is because we've talked about that before. They like to throw that in there whenever they're talking physics. Schrodinger's cat always shows up.
Hello, boys and girls. Karen and I hope you are enjoying the podcast. You know what I think can make your listening experience even better? A delicious themed adult beverage. You can find all our drink recipes on our website, scaryspirits.com, in the recipe den. Tune in every Wednesday and join us for a drink. Now, back to the show.
Then Brian introduces himself to who we learn as Catherine, the redhead. And apparently they and some other students are going to be spending the weekend together at the monastery. They just learned.
The professor has left a note with a list of students who need to come to his office They go to his office and find out their weekend is now ruined. They are spending it in the monastery because he promised the diocese that they would help him out.
And then I wrote Brian and Catherine make a love connection.
Well, he's a transfer student. He's a theoretical physicist. She's applied physics. I guess the professor is more of a theoretical physics, but she thinks he's a brilliant man. And they're talking, and she's had some trauma somewhere, you can tell.
I bring that up later.
And she says, okay to dinner. He asks her to dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And she says yes.
Then we see the professor telling the students kind of what they will be doing over the weekend, but he does not he is not very specific, Karen, I wrote.
No one ever knows why they're there or what they're doing.
No one knows.
Which would make it impossible to do any research if you don't know what you're doing. Like, I didn't get it. I didn't get where all the equations were coming from. I didn't get any of it. Like, what are they measuring? They don't even know because no one will tell them what they're doing. So it was frustrating.
And we see the professor, and he watches a bag lady with ants on her face outside the monastery. Then we see the professor and the priest talking. The outside world must know. The priest says, no prison can hold him now, or whatever.
Well, the priest wants the book translated, and he needs to convince the outside world that there's a problem. But the professor says the outside world doesn't want to hear this bullshit. Just keep it locked away. You've managed for 2,000 years not to say anything about it. So don't say anything now. No one's going to believe you at this point. Yeah. And he says no prison can hold him now, meaning the
vessel
essence of Satan, not the priest himself. He's like, because they're kind of arguing, and the professor's saying no one will believe you. And the priest is like, well, it doesn't matter because nobody can hold him now. He's coming. Like, this is it.
Then we see Brian stalking Catherine again, waiting for her outside of class.
Yep.
He asked her to coffee, and they end up sleeping together, Karen.
I said, that's more
But he does bring her coffee.
Yeah.
In the morning. And we see Brian on the front porch, and we see the moon and sun again. And right here I wrote, apparently Catherine has commitment issues.
Well, it looks like he's leaving. He gets up and he leaves while she's asleep, but then he's on the porch and he sees the sun and moon and stretches, and he's, there with his shirt open and everything. And then he goes back and brings her coffee. So he didn't leave. And they kissy face some more.
And then we see Alice Cooper in an alley, Karen, I wrote.
Yes, we do. I said, that man looks like Alice Cooper.
And again, he's looking at the moon and sun.
And he's watching all the students arrive at the church or monastery, I guess.
In a van.
Yep. And when the van leaves, you can see all the scientific equipment going in the back door. And they've brought in cots for everyone to sleep on. They're definitely not leaving. They're staying there inside this monastery for 48 hours at least.
And Dr. Leahy arrives, and he doesn't know what he's doing there either. He just shows up like, okay, what are we doing?
Nobody knows.
And everyone's setting up their equipment in the monastery. I wrote, Catherine has a very old computer with not one, but 2 floppy disk drives. Like I said, Karen, 3 megabytes of data she could read at one time on those disk drives.
They're all most of them are students. I think there's 2 doctors, the professor we've been talking to, and Dr. Leahy, the microbiologist. The rest are graduate students, doctorate students.
Yeah, and this is where the students all meet. So the physicist students meet the microbiology students. There's a little scene where everybody introduces themselves.
Yes. It says, do you know why we're here? And everybody says, no, I don't know. I don't know what we're doing.
And the homeless people watch from outside.
Yes, they're starting to assemble in lines outside.
And then we have words to read from the computer screen. The theology student is transcribing the text from the old book. And it says, I, Jesus, have sent mine angel to testify unto you this thing which shall be unleashed. Then the priest arrives. Again, we have a shot of the sun and moon together. And we have everyone in the basement. And the priest says it's gaining strength. Can you feel it? Can you feel it? And we have more words to read. Babylon, the great mother of harlots and the abomination of the earth.
That's a popular thing to throw in these movies, isn't it?
Harlots?
Babylon.
Oh.
Isn't it like, haven't we seen the harlot of, what's her name? Harlot of Babylon. It was in The Omen, and it was in another one. I can't remember which one.
Remember. Yeah, I remember.
Because you said that's not what the harlot of Babylon looks
That's
like.
Right. It's true. I remember now. I don't remember what film it was, though. And this is where we hear about the differential equations from a 2,000-year-old book when there were no differential equations 2,000 years ago, Walter
That's
says.
what Catherine's watching on the computer. She says it's formulating equations, but again, I don't know how or why. It's just doing it on the screen. And she says these weren't invented back then, or we didn't know them. I guess invented's the wrong word. They didn't know about them back then.
And worms are gathering on Catherine's window,
which is freaking her out.
And we have more words to read from the computer screen. And the prince of darkness was himself sealed, that old life called the devil and Satan, which deceived the whole world.
So I guess that's where the title comes from, but it's not prevalent. This is the only time it's mentioned.
And then we learned that apparently they've been investigating the vessel. So they've learned at least that it cannot be opened. It can only be opened from the inside. There's a very weird locking mechanism.
Susan, the radiologist, is telling them this, which is weird. It can only be opened from the inside. And what's the purpose of something like that when you're trying to lock something up? I said, that's not good.
And we see Alice Cooper and his friends hanging out outside the monastery again. And I think Dr. Leahy and Walter are in like the kitchen eating Chinese and pizza or something. And they're watching a Tom and Jerry cartoon and Tom falls into hell.
Yeah. So you get the impression that they've obviously brought in or ordered a lot of fast food. There's Chinese, there's pizza, there's snacks. There's a lot of Kool-Aid, jar, like the old powder things that you used to mix up 2-quart containers of Kool-Aid. And they are watching Tom and Jerry, which is an American animated media franchise and series of comedy short films created in, guess the year. When do you think they started?
Created?
Mm-hmm. You know, it was Hanna-Barbera, right?
Well, the first number, for whatever reason, that popped in my head was 1959. I don't know why.
1940, they started. William Hanna and Joseph Barbera. Best known for its 161 theatrical short films by MGM. The series centers on the rivalry between the titular characters of a cat named Tom and a mouse named Jerry. So 161 cartoons. I'm sure there's more now.
That seems low.
Well, those are the Hanna-Barbera ones with MGM. So we're not talking the modern ones.
And we have the homeless people staring again. And then I wrote one of, I think, the microbiologist. I never ever did learn his name. He leaves.
I think he just decides he's leaving. He's out. If no one, oh, no. Is he covering for, so the professor is staying. So he said he's covering for the professor at the lab. So he helps set up and then he's leaving. He is a microbiologist because Leahy's a microbiologist. But he doesn't get far.
He leaves and he is impaled by Alice Cooper.
With half a bike.
Very good acting by Alice Cooper.
And he does see, the pigeon was kind of.
He does see a crucified pigeon.
Yes, which was kind of eerie and creepy, I thought. Hadn't seen that before. So we're almost 40 minutes in the film before we see the first death.
Are we 40 right here?
Yeah. I know, it seemed longer. But 40 minutes in, and Alice Cooper, after he impales him, looks up at the moon.
Then Brian confronts the professor and he says that inside the vessel, a life form is growing and organizing.
In the prebiotic fluid.
Is that like ambiotic or whatever?
Amniotic.
Amniotic, yeah, no, I can't say
I don't know if that's right, but... But Brian's starting to get a little frustrated because, again, no one knows. They keep saying they don't know. What is it? An animal? A disease? What is it?
But Susan,
the radiologist,
she says that carbon dating on the vessel dates it to 7 million years ago, Karen. And then we cut to some green ooze leaving the vessel, but it's defying gravity, it looks like.
Yes, it's
dripping
dripping
upwards.
instead of down.
Almost like they turned the camera upside down. And...
Almost exactly like that.
So then the theology students telling the others about what she learned in the book. The vessel was sealed by the father of Satan, and apparently that Christ came to us to warn us, and that he is a human, or was a human-like extraterrestrial. Then we cut back to the vessel.
Well, wait, so...
the green liquid.
Wait. The container was buried somewhere in the Middle East a long time ago by the father of Satan, a god who wants to walk the earth before man, but was banished to the dark side. The father buried his son inside the container. Christ comes to warn us. He's an extraterrestrial, but human-like race. And then we go down to the woman who's getting too close to the green liquid.
Yep.
That's Susan.
Green liquid defying gravity and dripping up, I wrote. It shoots right into the mouth of the student who was doing the carbon dating, who we learn later is Susan. We don't even know her name is yet.
Well, she's standing there with her mouth open because she's in shock at that the liquid is defying gravity. And then he just shoots it like a super soaker right into her mouth.
Like a seltzer bottle.
Well, that, those it's like a thin, like a squirt bottle, but like a super soaker. Yeah. And it burns. It burns.
But then the theology student goes on, cut back to her telling her story. And she says that Christ was crazy. They thought he was crazy, but he was converting people, so they killed him. And his disciples kept the secret until man could develop the science to prove what he was saying. Interesting story. So then the priest tells her, well, they ask the priest, why are we just finding this out now, 2,000 years later? And the priest tells them that it was decided by the church, Karen, that they would tell the lie and that evil is in the heart of man, thus making man stay in the center. They were salesmen just selling the belief.
Shocking.
Is it?
I'm sure it would be to some people even today, Greg.
And then we see like an EKG or seismograph or something.
It's a seismograph.
And Brian tells the professor that whatever is in the vessel had a burst of energy directed in one specific location, right in Susan's mouth.
Precision of less than a millisecond. I don't know how he knew that.
And then the professor and Brian determined that the thing in the vessel has psychokinesis.
Yes, mind-directed energy.
Then Mullins goes looking for Susan. This is where we find out her name is Susan, because he's saying, have you seen Susan? The girl with the glasses, the radiologist?
Yes.
They say that and a couple times.
They had a little interaction. She's married, but he flirted with her slightly.
Mullins did?
Yeah. Just a little brief interaction. So he would look for her. They obviously knew each other.
Then Brian tells Catherine about what he's learned. Power reaching out and moving objects by thought. Catherine's just sitting there staring at the screen still. So then Mullins, down in the basement, finds Susan's glasses, and the machine is beeping rapidly, Karen. I don't know what the machine is, but it's fucking beeping like crazy, getting quicker and quicker and quicker. And then we see Susan behind Mullins, and she snaps his neck. He gone.
Yeah, that's pretty intense.
And we cut to the priest and the professor discussing things, and the professor is talking about every particle has an antiparticle, its mirror image, its negative side.
Kind of like you and me.
Maybe he's an anti-God bringing darkness instead of truth.
And light.
That hurts, Karen.
What if there's a universal mind controlling everything?
And right here I wrote, is the priest questioning his faith?
I think the priest was questioning his faith back when he would said everybody, they were salesmen and they were just telling lies. But if this is where you say he's questioning his faith, okay.
Then we see the microbiologist students outside the monastery, and they're talking. And the one named Frank, he ain't buying it.
There's kind of believers and not believers at this point, I think.
Yeah, Frank says, I ain't doing this. I'm out of here. But the others go back inside. Leave.
And this is
leave
where
him outside alone.
Which is bad, but I thought this was a pretty shot. Like, you can tell He's lit very beautifully. He's got a long shadow because there's a light behind him. I just liked that they pulled way back. You can see he's in a parking lot. It was just a nice shot.
Mm-hmm.
It made an impression on me.
And we see Susan come out the same door the other two just entered. And she's uplit. I remember that.
She never blinks.
She never does. And apparently she's controlling cockroaches, Karen, or something.
Beetles, it looks like.
Beetles. And they attack Frank, and as he's being attacked by them, he is stabbed by the bag lady repeatedly, I wrote.
Yes.
With what appears to be half of a garden shear or something.
That's what it looks like. And she has really wide eyes. Susan doesn't. She never blinks.
And we have more words to read from the computer screen of the theology student, I guess. Be you not deceived of his purpose, for one will be chosen. And then she turns to look at the book, and there's a symbol there, Karen, which looks a little like the Blue Oyster Cult symbol, actually, now that I think about it.
All I have is Catherine's watching the screen, and I said, no graduate student wears that much makeup.
My hair's perfect the whole time.
Yeah, you never, that's not what you look like. Well, not in molecular genetics graduate school anyway.
Then Dr. Leahy, he asks where Frank is, and they tell him he left. He then asks, hey, has anyone seen Susan? The radiologist with the glasses?
Yes.
And they figure she must have left as well. And then we see Walter sleeping, and I guess we're seeing his dream, but it's saying it's not a dream. Then Brian comes in and wakes him up and asks him if he has seen Susan, the microbiologist with the glasses, or Frank or Mullins. They're all missing. And then we see Linda. She's retiring to her bed, her cot, after Walter tries to hit on her.
She's the one with the bruise. Sorry, Linda's the translator. Yes. So Walter keeps hitting on her, but she's not interested at all.
Yeah, so she goes to sleep on her cot, and we see Susan behind the door, and she closes it. And we see the professor dreaming, and he's dreaming the same freaking dream that Walter was. This is not a dream. We are transmitting, blah, 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 blah. And then the priest tells the professor, because he's sitting there as the professor is sleeping at his desk. And the professor wakes up, and the priest says that anyone in close proximity to the brotherhood of sleep has the same dream. And he says, you were dreaming, weren't you? Then we cut back to Susan, and she's ejecting liquid into Lisa's mouth.
Yes, Susan comes creeping into her bed like, I don't know what's going to happen.
I know. I thought
sexy,
there was some
I'm like, well, here comes the sexual content. And then no.
Because Linda wasn't really protesting too much.
No, she wasn't. She was just looking at her.
Until it was too late.
Then she screams and gets water or liquid squirted in her mouth from Susan. So yeah, it was kind of like, oh, blah, blah. Oh, no. Okay. Not what I thought.
So then the cut back to the priest and the professor, and the priest is telling the professor that the dream will progress more and more every time they each go to sleep.
Oh, okay. Not when one person goes to sleep, when each person goes to sleep. I didn't catch that. Well, why aren't they sleeping? Go back to bed and try to figure out what's going on.
And we cut back to the basement, the dead body of Mullins, and the liquid begins falling into his mouth.
From the ceiling, yes. So it can go up or down, depending on where it needs to go.
So then I wrote, Catherine notices the bruise on the other girl's arm, who is Kelly.
Kelly, yeah.
I didn't know her name yet. Kelly. And it begins, and it looks like the figure in the book, the drawing, the Blue Oyster Cult symbol.
Yes. At first it was just a bruise, but then now when she comes in to say she's going to bed because she's absolutely exhausted, it has a dark background and skin has lifted in the Blue Oyster Cult symbol. Yeah. So it's almost like a 3D tattoo or something, it looks like. But she was a non-entity until this moment. She looked like she was in pajamas to me. I was like, what? She's going to be killed first because she's so innocuous, but now all of a sudden she has a very important role. And what is she, a physicist? What is
she? She's one of the physicists, grad students,
but she wants to sleep for 15 minutes and they're supposed to go wake her up.
So then they're all going to go meet in the lab.
Yes, but you see Lisa, is that the
Yes.
translator? So she's now infected and she's sitting at the computer
Typing away,
wildly, and that's where she's typing, I
Over and over.
live, I live, I
Exclamation point.
live. Yes.
It says, you will not be saved by the Holy Ghost. You will not be saved by the god plutonium. In fact, you will not be saved.
In capital letters, yes.
Then Susan enters and she and Lisa knock Kelly down, right? Is it Kelly? No. Calder is the one who's telling Lisa they're going to meet in the lab. He enters, Susan enters, and she and Lisa knock Calder down, and then Susan injects Calder with the liquid, like kissy facing with him. And we cut to the priest asking the others if they have fallen asleep, and if so, if they have had the same dream. And Professor tries to decipher what the dream is. What if the dream or video sent from humans in the future? A view of the future so we can change it. And all the computers go dead. That'd be bad.
For you, 100%.
It would be bad, yeah. Then we see Lisa and Susan moving the vessel of green slimy liquid. Apparently it's on wheels, and it's a lot bigger than I thought. Then the others look out a window and see Frank.
Yeah.
The microbiologist, and he's covered in bugs. And he says, I've got a message for you, and you're not going to like it. Pray for death. And then the insects devour him, and he basically falls to pieces. His head falls off.
His head falls off. That's a pretty cool scene because his head falls off and he's still standing.
His hands fall off.
His hands fall off and beetles fall out. And then his leg falls off and then he finally topples over. As it goes in this movie, that was pretty good.
And we see Calder singing Amazing Grace, walking up the stairs.
Amazing Grace is a Christian hymn, which of course
it is.
Do you know when it was published?
It's my mom's favorite.
Oh, my mom hated it. We always would say, so Amazing Grace at your funeral, right? She hated it.
When was it published?
Yeah.
Long time ago, I gotta think. Way back. Like 17 something, I was gonna say. 1789.
Oh, so close. 1779. With words written in 1772 by English clergyman and poet John Newton. I know you always wanted to know that.
John Newton sounds familiar.
It sounds like a scientist to me.
I'm sure I read that in the hymnal every fucking Sunday. As he's singing, he breaks a piece of wood off of the banister and slits his throat with it.
Yeah, he's sweating. He doesn't look good. Well, now, not even. He's down.
Then we see Susan and Lisa with the vessel standing over, I wrote the girl with the bruise, who I now know as Kelly. And we cut to the priest giving Calder his last rites. Is that what he's doing, Karen? He's praying.
It looked like it, yeah.
I don't know. Saying
which
words.
Is weird because he basically committed suicide, which I don't think back then especially was not considered kosher, so you couldn't get last rites and things like that. Last rites are usually given when you're alive, I thought, but maybe not.
I know.
I think he was
but
still
I didn't know what else to
alive.
call it.
No, it still looks like he is alive, so they're doing something, but...
So then they tried to leave the monastery and discovered that they are blocked in by the homeless people, I assume. They've barricaded the doors.
With all their stuff, yeah.
Walter goes to Kelly's room and finds the liquid on the ceiling flowing down into Kelly's mouth and nose, Karen.
Wait, who went?
Walter.
Oh, Walter, okay.
Dr. Leahy enters the room and Lisa squirts him. She's a squirter, Karen.
Yeah.
Lisa enters the hall to confront the others, and the priest is behind her, and he backs up slowly and locks himself in a room.
He leaves them all to the good luck.
And then Walter locks himself in a closet, which almost looked like a confessional at some points. I wasn't sure exactly what it was.
I don't know what that was either.
Not that I know what a fucking confessional looks like. But I've seen him in movies.
It had that screen.
The screen, yeah.
But it was a closet, I think, or something.
And Calder and Mullins enter the hallway where the others are. And others lock themselves in a room and barricade the door. Walter sees Kelly outside a confessional. That's where I wrote confession. I didn't question mark. I don't know. And she appears to be changing. This is when she has the basketball under her
I
shirt.
said, oh, I started laughing. Oh, okay, now she's pregnant. But I don't think she's supposed to be pregnant. She's infected with a parasite maybe or something, but it's 100% a basketball. So I thought they were trying to say she was pregnant.
And then we see Dr. Leahy struggling to rise up. And I wrote, Kelly's not looking so good. Go back to Kelly. Her skin is looking very scarred. She's getting the Freddy Krueger look. And then I wrote Walter still trying to be funny, but he ain't.
No, I said, well, tells stupid jokes.
But Catherine hears him through the wall on the other side. And then Walter asks them to dig through the wall to get him out. Catherine begins digging through the wall.
The smallest 2x4 with a little metal on the end. I don't know.
Yeah, with an angle iron on the end.
There you go.
And they tell Walter it's going to take a couple hours, but
and they say it's a thick wall, and then she pokes through it, and it's
like nothing.
I know.
And I wrote, it doesn't look like it's going to take that long.
I know. I said it's not that thick of a wall, but they do.
But we do hit brick later.
Yes.
So
it is thick, but it's a thick wall. Bam! She goes and she has a hole the size of her head, and it's like fingernail thickness. But yeah.
Then Calder breaks into the room where the priest is hiding, and he's mesmerized by his reflection in a mirror.
I couldn't tell at this point, and maybe you can tell me. He was giggling, then he was crying. So can you see sort of what he looks like, and then trying to fight it, maybe, and then I didn't really get it.
I don't know.
He was just stand there for an extended period of time in front of the mirror.
Like, I don't know if he could see Satan through the mirror or like father of Satan or whatever.
I don't know. I don't know. It was weird.
Yeah. So then Brian jumps out a window. I don't know what he's trying to do, but he jumps out the window. The others, are there, and he's like, hey, be prepared to pull me back up. And I guess he's trying to get out or try to like make a way for them to get out, like unbarricade the doors or something. I don't know.
It was weird because I thought he was drawing the homeless people to him.
The homeless people converge on him, and he climbs up the wall and is pulled back in by the others. So whatever.
It's like something got cut out there that they were trying to do.
And we see Walter still trying to be funny.
I said, Walter starts telling jokes, stupid ones. Now we're back to the dream.
And right here, I noticed that the vessel is empty.
Yes.
All the liquid's gone. And Kelly is changing more. And we have the dream again.
Catherine fell asleep.
This time. And she wakes up as one of the microbiologists is trying to dig through the wall. And it's brick. It's a brick wall now. And then Catherine and Brian share a moment, I wrote. They go back to the conversation they had over coffee and the morning after or whatever.
Well, because it looked like he was going to tell her he loved her, but she didn't want him to say it. And now she's like, okay, I want you to say it because basically I think we're going to die. So now it's important.
And then we see Calder and he's at the mirror again. And it looks like he's trying to reach through it. So that makes me think he can see the other side. And I wrote Kelly looking worse. So we cut back to Kelly.
Yeah, she's decaying rapidly. And I said, where's the baby? Because
she still don't look like the personification of Satan, though.
No,
anyway.
But her belly's gone.
What I think of Satan.
But
when I see him in my dreams, that's not what he looks like.
When you have tea with Satan, that's not what he looks like. Well, maybe everybody sees him differently. So
then Walter tells the others about how Kelly is changing through the wall. I mean, he's yelling at him through the wall. He's like, get me out of here, whatever. And the professor hypothesizes. And
her belly her belly like starts to move around and all this kind of stuff then.
The professor hypothesizes that it is a parasite growing inside of Kelly. And this is the gestation period. Is that what he says? Yeah, that's why I thought it was baby. I'm like,
parasite. where's the baby?
Same difference. It's parasite. Then Catherine realizes all of a sudden the light bulb goes off. Oh my God, the mark on Kelly's arm was the same one as in the book. She's the chosen one.
Yes, she is.
She has the Blue Oyster Cult insignia on her. So then the professor tells Walter through the wall, hey, keep an eye on Kelly and let us know if anything changes. She's constantly changing. But anyway.
Yeah, she looks bad.
Then we cut to the priest praying.
Out
reading
loud when
scripture.
Calder's in the room.
Yeah.
I don't know why he was doing that, but
Then all of a sudden, Kelly, cut back to Kelly, and she becomes aware of Walter because he keeps shining his flashlight through the grate in the closet.
which he doesn't
screen.
need to because the room's lit up. But they did say for him to watch her. But the priest is asking for God's help.
Yes. When he asks, Christ, where are you?
Yes.
Then Walter, in the little closet there, begins freaking out and acting badly.
Well, they're
Kelly's-
starting to come for him now.
Yeah, Kelly sends Lisa and Susan through the closet door to get Walter. And Walter begins trying to break through on his side. Right now, just now. He
I
could have
know.
been doing this the whole fucking time.
No, but he's cracking jokes.
Whatever. So then Brian goes to leave the room to save Walter, right?
Yes.
But then Mullins enters and they hit him with some 2x4s and he spits liquid at one of the microbiologists who we never did their name.
Yeah, I said at the guy, I don't know who he is.
And the professor stabs him right in the eye with a chopstick or something. I don't know what he had.
But it works.
It does. But then Kelly looks down
Which
and
is
sees,
weird because breaking his neck didn't work, but stabbing his eyeball did. So I don't know. That's bizarre to me.
maybe they're going to maybe he's using zombie lore. I mean, they refer to them as zombies quite a bit. At least in
So why does poking your eye hurt a zombie?
well, I mean, it could puncture the frontal lobe of the brain.
So it piths them? Okay, I guess.
I don't know. But then Kelly sees her reflection in a compact, which I guess one of the girls dropped or some shit.
Yeah, which I thought she was freaking out that she saw herself, but no, she can see into the other world through
Yes.
the mirror.
So Dr. Leahy then tries to spit fluid at Brian, but he ducks. He dodges
Yes.
the fluid and he hits him with a piece of wood, another 2x4 or 4x4 or whatever it is they got. So then finally Walter breaks through the wall and the others try to pull him through as Lisa and Susan try to hold him back.
And I really thought he was going to split in two.
Did you?
I
thought
oh,
Lisa was biting his ankles.
well, she was, I thought, but I thought, okay, here comes. They're each going to pull their pieces in the opposite direction.
Mm.
But no, it didn't happen,
So then they beat Lisa and Susan with bricks.
which isn't working either.
No, but they end up throwing Lisa through a window, which I don't know why that would work either, but I guess she can't climb back in. I don't know.
He just climbed back. Was that their plan? Is that why he went out? I don't know.
I don't think so. But they helped him. They pulled him up. They reached down and
Right.
pulled him up.
I don't know. Weird.
So then Kelly calls to her father through the mirror, the little compact mirror. She puts her fingers through it, and then she, I guess, gets disgusted and aggravated and throws it down, and it breaks.
I think because there's not enough room in that mirror, but it is an
Right, it's too
interesting
small.
effect that they used the same in the Curse of the Blue Lights. Remember the water? They did that same thing.
Mhm. Yes,
It
they
looks
did.
like water or mercury or something, but it's water, I'm sure.
Yeah. So then Kelly hears Calder and goes to find him. Of course, he's standing in front of the large mirror. So she goes to the large mirror and it begins again calling for her father.
Father.
Yeah, back in the other room, they toss Susan out the window as she attacks. And then the priest finds an axe just
Just
as
conf-
Kelly reaches through the window.
Very convenient, finds the axe. I thought he was going to break the window then, but no.
I didn't know what he was going to do.
I thought that's what he was going to do.
So the priest amputates Kelly's arm and it falls into the mirror. I think she regenerates it.
She does. She grows another one immediately.
But then we cut back to Brian and Calder fighting. Go back to the priest and he cuts Kelly's head off, but she...
And he's speaking Latin. What's
What's he saying, Karen?
I'm not going to tell you.
But Kelly picks up her head and puts it back on her shoulders.
So that was pretty good. Because
Mm,
if you cut off a zombie's head, that's the end of it.
that's
But
the
not.
end, yeah.
She just leans over, picks it up.
Well, the head
puts it
doesn't
back on.
die.
But still, she reattached. It like suction cupped on there.
Then Kelly traps the priest with a large piece of furniture or some shit. I don't know
Yes.
what it was.
Using her psychokinesis.
Back to Brian and Colton fighting in the hallway. And Catherine enters the room. Wow, where's Catherine been all this time? I was wondering. And we see Kelly pulling her father through the mirror, and Catherine stands there and she's debating on what to do.
She's freaking out, but Kelly's reaching in and you see something grab her hand and she starts pulling it out of the mirror. Catherine doesn't know whether to save her boyfriend, Brian, or to save the world.
Yeah, so then Catherine jumps at Kelly and they both fall into the mirror. Then the priest takes his axe, throws it at the mirror, smashing it.
Brian yells, "No!"
Then smoke begins coming from all the mouths of those who were infected.
And the dead ones, and they're all dead, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're all dead now. And the homeless people dissipate outside the building. Walter jumps out a window and runs away.
Well, he went to run for help.
That's what I have. Well, next morning, apparently Walter called the police because they're all there taking bodies out.
Yep.
And the priest says, they stopped it. We stopped it.
He's happy. But Brian just looks at the mirror.
Yeah. The professor tries to console Brian, tells him that she died for us. Then we have the dream again, transmitting from the year 1999. But this time, we
finally see that, yes.
But this time we see Catherine emerging from the monastery door. And Brian wakes up to a disfigured Catherine laying next to him.
That got me.
And then he screams and wakes up again. So it's a double dream.
Yeah, I jumped.
There's only a couple startle scares. And then he looks in the mirror. And I wrote he appears to have bruises. But I guess that's from fighting, right? With Mullins.
Probably. And he reaches out.
And he begins to reach for the mirror. And right before he touches it, credits. The end.
I should have said, I didn't want to spoil it, but I do like that they circled back around with the dream. I thought that was a nice touch.
That was fine. Yeah, I didn't hate that. All right. What'd you think of the cocktail, Karen?
Cocktail's good.
Cocktail's very good.
Yeah. It's definitely.
I can drink a lot of those by the end of the night.
Yep. That's a lanai drink. You'll be bringing me those by the pool.
Anything we learned today, Karen?
What did we learn? We learned about the hierarchy of the Catholic Church.
Well, I did, for sure.
Yes. Tom and Jerry, Amazing Grace, Coptic language, the Copts, COPTS, what a supernova is, what a white dwarf is. You got a Blue Oyster Cult reference in there.
I did.
Bunch of Alice Cooper sightings.
I'm surprised he didn't have a song tying, at least for like.
I thought I heard one at I thought I heard one at some point, but there isn't one. I thought I heard a song with words, but I don't know where it was.
I don't know.
It sounded like it could have been.
The soundtrack's all John Carpenter, so.
Oh.
This was 1987. I mean, he was well into his return. Anything else we learned? I don't think so. That's all I had.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right, then. Next film, Karen, I believe it's your choice.
It is.
And what film have you chosen for us?
I have chosen the 1943 film, I Walked with a Zombie.
Wow, 1943.
Yeah.
It's right in the middle of World War II. I wonder if there's any anti-war references in it.
I don't know.
Analogies.
We'll have to see.
You have a cocktail for us?
I do.
Go on.
I've chosen the Black Margarita cocktail.
That sounds familiar. It's been one I looked at in the past.
I think I sent it to you at one point. I just chose it. It has nothing to do with the film. I mean, the film takes place on a sugarcane plantation, I think. So, I mean, it's a sugary drink, but I just think it would be a cool Halloween drink. So that's why I picked it. You are going to need some interesting ingredients, though.
Go on.
Of course, you'll need tequila, orange liqueur, lime juice. You'll also need agave and a half a teaspoon of activated charcoal, food grade. Now, the only thing I want to say here, and I'm going to remind people again next week when we talk about this drink, if you're on medication, black charcoal might not be the best thing for you to have.
Any kind of medication, Karen?
I'm not sure. I think
I'm on medication, Karen.
I know, but it can absorb the medication. That's why they use it for overdoses and things, because it will absorb your medication in your stomach. So if you're going to drink this in the evening and you're supposed to take medication in the evening, I wouldn't add the charcoal. Of course, that is what makes it black. You can also rim it with black salt, which you can get in liquor stores or on Amazon, but just be careful. Check it out. Do a little Google search and make sure it'd be okay for you to have it. It'll look cool, but we don't want anyone to
Ask
have any
Dr.
issue.
Google, Karen.
No, I think it's pretty well known that it will absorb medication. So in this case, I would Google. I mean, if you can call your doctor and ask him, hey, I'm going to make a black margarita and it has activated charcoal in it. Should I do that? Then, hey, that's great. I could email my doctor and ask him and he would reply, but
I could message mine and he would too. Maybe not in a timely manner, but
not everyone can do that. And so just be careful with this.
Seems to usually answer on Sundays for some odd reason.
Well, I would ask him if I were you, if there's any reason why. It's a half a teaspoon. It's not a ton, but I wouldn't want anyone to get into any issues over it. You can just use food coloring, mix all the colors together, red, green, and blue, and throw them in there. But that's going to turn your teeth and your tongue black. So, but it'll work. It'll make the drink black and it won't change the taste. But I'm going to try this charcoal thing. I want to see. It seems to me like it would be gritty, but I guess it's not, because when I think of charcoal, I think of what you throw in the grill. So I'm curious about what it's going to taste like and the texture of it and everything.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I look forward to I Walk with a Zombie from 1943.
I look forward to the black margarita.
I know there's a whole freaking essay in the book that
I'm not sure it's the first zombie movie, but it's pretty close to the first one.
Okay. Anyone you need to thank this week, Karen?
Well, as usual, I'm going to thank our listener. There's a lot of podcasts out there. Thank you for spending time with us. What about you, Greg? Who do you need to thank?
Once again, I need to thank the band Verse 13 for providing all of the music in the Scary Spirits podcast.
The music definitely makes the podcast better.
Anything else, Karen?
Welcome to October, everyone. And please drink responsibly.
Yes.
Hey, it's Karen, and I'm here to talk to you about getting social with us. Did you know you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Scary Spirits Podcast? Or check out our website, scaryspirits.com. If you have something to say, email us at info@scaryspirits.com. And as always, thanks so much for listening. Please drink responsibly.